Dr. Maliki.
Mr. Speaker, I support the motion. The President has articulated the government's agenda with specific focus on facing complex challenges in an uncertain world, rooted with appreciation of the needs of our elderly and aspirations of our young. I will focus my speech on the social compact between the government and the younger generation of Singaporeans who are coming of age and trying to navigate a world very different from their parents when they were young. The social compact during our early post-independence years was simple, quite simple, as it encompasses much of our ambition. I recall it simply says the government will create a better life for Singaporeans. Our first generation government forged this social compact with Singaporeans like my parents when we were a nation struggling for survival and aspiring for a better living. Back then, it seemed straightforward. The government promised a home with modern amenities for Singaporeans. We all moved from our kampong houses to HDB flats, rental flats initially. But with economic progress, we moved to purchased homes, which appreciated in value over time. We wanted stable jobs in a dynamic economy. So when the government urged us to pick up manufacturing skills in vocational schools, we did. In the 1970s and 80s, those were our only choices. At the same time, we were given access to quality education, and many of us attained education and skills levels that our parents never thought possible. We wanted to be able to defend ourselves after the British forces withdrew. So when the government introduced national service, we served. Against the odds, our earlier generation transformed a small country into a thriving economy, established a strong defense force in a volatile geopolitical environment, and built national unity from multiracial, religious society. During this debate, many members of the House have spoken on social inequality and cautioned against the ill effects of social stratification. Like them, I have come across cases of low-income families facing multiple challenges, raising concerns about the future of their children, and wondering, how is it that we still have such families, given 50 years of remarkable economic progress? It begs the question, have we failed in fulfilling our social compact with Singaporeans? It is true that as our country developed economically, most Singaporeans saw improvements in their lives. We accepted a social compact forged at a time where meritocracy was the principal consideration, and our priorities were to promote personal responsibility and optimize our scarce budget resources. Our middle class grew. Singaporeans owned homes and experienced significant capital gains when they sold their HDB flats. However, some Singaporeans, unfortunately, lagged behind. The government had not stood idly by. We adopted diverse approaches to provide support for the low-income group through initiatives such as the Many Hands approach, ComCare, the Workfare Income Supplement Scheme. Despite these efforts, some continue to say that government intervention has been inadequate, and even argue that certain government policies led to this inequality. Reflecting on this, I'm convinced that the recent tide of concern regarding rising inequality is not so much an indication of an unfulfilled social compact. Instead, it shows a growing recognition that a balance will need to be struck between performance-based meritocracy on one hand and compassion and opportunities on the other, as our society and economy continues to grow and prosper. Are we looking for greater emphasis on compassion versus meritocracy? The larger question then is the social compact of the past still relevant today? Will young Singaporeans share the same aspirations and outlook as their predecessors? Madam President said in her address that a new generation of Singaporeans are coming of age and bring with them different dreams, hopes, and fears. It is important for us to understand their concerns and aspirations, given that this generation will inherit and actively shape Singapore's future. Our government will need to partner them to write the next chapter of the Singapore story and co-create the right social compact for their time. To do so, we must know our next generation, the Singapore millennials. The National Youth Council's 2016 survey highlights many positive characteristics of this generation of millennials that I believe puts us in good stead to thrive in a new environment. According to the survey, young Singaporeans embrace lifelong learning and rated acquiring new skills and knowledge highly as part of their top life goals. They are also more socially conscious, future-focused, and have greater international exposure. Being a parent of 2 millennials myself, I must say that I'm intimately acquainted with the challenges of trying to understand our children and youth today. However, this bent picture of our millennials, as depicted by the National Youth Survey, is a useful reference point for us to keep in mind. And as we continue to explore the key design considerations of what Singapore's future will look like. After all, this new social compact 2.0, as I call it, would need to be forged with and by those from this younger generation. Mr. Speaker, as I contemplated on how we, as a government, can make bold strides in engaging our young people, I was struck by a report from a consultancy firm, Interbrand, and tech firm Oracle. It highlighted 5 strategies to reach out to our millennials today. What are these strategies? It spoke of 1, creating an experience for them. 2, making things frictionless. 3, allowing customization. 4, building loyalty. And 5, demonstrating value. While these strategies were originally conceived to inform retailers' efforts to win over the youth market, the insights are applicable for our context. The key questions were, to ask myself, how do these prescribed strategies upend our traditional business models of governance and public policy making? And further, what further areas of governance, or what specific areas of governance can we infuse these strategies into? So let me try. First, the strategy to outreach to the millennial is to create an experience. In this context, perhaps redefining success. In the past, the Singaporean dream was often encapsulated by, of course, the 5 Cs: cash, car, credit card, condominium, and country card membership. But today, our millennials are developing their own definition of success. No longer satisfied with just the attainment of the 5 Cs, our youth today crave memorable and purposeful experiences that emphasize the importance of the journey instead of being fixated with the destination. Encapsulated by the so-called YOLO attitude. You only live once. Our youth want to be excited about where they live, work, and play. To this end, our youth can look forward to raising families in homes that will boast both physical and digital connectivity. Just imagine, by leveraging artificial intelligence, smart homes could render current-day household chores an afterthought. At work, our millennials will also come to grips with the challenges of participating in the extremely competitive global labor marketplace. More will job hop with high attrition rates in some professions, because just earning money is not enough. Young people want to know that they have made a difference. They look for new experiences and want to learn new things, as they know the possession of single and static skill sets is not sufficient to thrive amidst the competition. To balance work, our young people want a Singapore that is fun and vibrant. From hunting down the latest Insta-worthy hangouts to taking part in various arts or sporting events. The extent to which we can make Singapore the most livable city is clearly only limited by our own imagination. To satisfy this generation's thirst for novel experiences, this government will need to partner our citizens to redefine the meaning of success and recognize that paradoxically, it might be one that continually shifts and always gives us something new and better to aspire towards. In this new social compact, the role of government is to bring public policy in line with Singaporeans' evolving aspirations, whilst ensuring the national survival is not compromised. The second strategy to connecting to millennials is making it frictionless, and in context of governance, perhaps reimagining public service delivery. Today, our youth have increasingly grown accustomed to living in a frictionless society. Thanks to advances in telecommunications and the internet, private sector companies have been able to leverage innovations and technologies to make our daily lives more convenient and hassle-free. In transportation, for example, private hire mobile applications such as Grab that provide door-to-door services with seamless payment solutions have become commonplace and effectively disrupted how our people consume transportation services. Reminders like "don't board a stranger's car" do not resonate with young people. Similarly, e-commerce has changed the retail experience, making it possible to now make purchases of all sorts from the comforts of home at just the click of a button. This is the reality that confronts the Singapore public service, that these forms of corporate innovation increases our citizens' expectations of service delivery, which inevitably extends to the provision of public services as well. This issues a clarion call to the government to raise our standards of public service delivery to satisfy the expectations of our people. This is our opportunity to reimagine many areas of governance, such as housing, health, social services, education, and transportation. The time to act is now. In this aspect, we can be encouraged by the progress that has been made by our Smart Nation initiatives. We have already made inroads in some of these areas. The Parking.sg app is targeted at making the tearing of car park coupons a thing of the past. I'm sure some still do tear the car park coupons. Increasingly, there have been stronger calls to leverage our national digital identity to successfully implement a national e-payment solution. These ideas represent but the tip of the iceberg on how Singapore will bet big on technological solutions to transform the way we deliver healthcare, employment, and financial services to the population. This government will have to convince fellow Singaporeans that we are ready to get with the times, to be daring and bold in exploring all ideas that will help ensure that our services are accessible on the go, available on demand, absent of cumbersome processes, supported by the use of safe and secure databases, and equipped with feedback mechanisms for constant improvement. Through this, we hope to deliver the service standards that our citizens desire and deserve. The third strategy is allowing customization. In this context, Singapore for everyone. Many of us in this chamber can recall the days when kopi came mostly in recycled condensed milk tins, and a kopi si siu thai counts as a special order. Today, walk into any modern cafe, often run by young entrepreneurs, and you can select from a menu that ranges from a nitro cold brews to hand-brewed drip coffee with hints of cherry. The coffee beans will also be sourced from across the globe, catering to every palate and preference. No previous generation has ever had such high expectations for variety and customization. Nevertheless, our young Singaporeans are proving themselves as more mature than older Singaporeans sometimes give them credit for. Many young residents have shared with me that their perception of Singapore's value is not determined only by our plentiful economic opportunities, but also by the extent that Singapore is home to people and places they love. They understand that Singapore, as an advanced economy, is unlikely to experience double-digit economic growth, but can still sustain a good standard of living if we remain dynamic in our outlook. What we seek in the next bound of our development is greater involvement in shaping what they seek, the millennials, seek in the next bound of our development is greater involvement in shaping policies and the living environment that sets the conditions for our country's dynamism. They want the opportunity to customize aspects of their nation, just as they had grown accustomed to in many other facets of their lives. I believe our younger Singaporeans seek to revisit the social compact, where the government had a monopoly on master planning the public good and create a greater role for citizen participation in city design and policy formulation. We have taken steps in this direction. One example is HDB's Adventure Playground at Canberra. This playground had features conceptualized, designed and built by residents living in Canberra Housing Estate in Sembawang. About 1,800 people were involved through design workshops, roadshows and surveys. The outcome is a facility that is fun for young residents with design elements that reflect the precinct's heritage. These are encouraging signs. I spoke of YOLO earlier. Now I was told there is also FOMO, fear of missing out, a prevalent mindset of apprehension that you will miss out on something great. So to the young Singaporeans, there is huge potential for co-creation. Do not miss out on this opportunity to create the future with the government and forge a new social compact where every citizen has the opportunity to shape policies and public goods which they hold dear. This way, Singaporeans can take ownership of our country through the process of co-creation, and everyone can be proud to call Singapore home. The fourth strategy to reach out to the millennials is building loyalty. In this context, the implication for government is making Singapore where the heart is. Indeed, what gives our young Singaporeans a stake in Singapore will evolve. For a generation that is better educated, more traveled, articulate, and confident than their predecessors, the world is their oyster. Home ownership and stable employment might not be enough to keep our young Singaporeans anchored in Singapore. On the other hand, the evergreen demands on our small city-state, on its populace, have not gone away. We will still need every Singaporean son to defend us from external threats. As we remain a diverse society, mutual respect for Singaporeans of all races and religions to uphold racial and religious harmony remains non-negotiable. Life and living as a Singaporean comes with the responsibilities of citizenship. For our young Singaporeans whose skills are valued by major cities across the globe, what makes Singapore their home of choice? What drives our love and yearning for home, despite its imperfections and our household responsibilities? I do not profess to know the answer for all Singaporeans. For my family, the trials and tribulations we have been through and the unbreakable trust we have in one another has held us together over the years. By extension, forging a sense of common destiny and winning the confidence of its citizens are imperatives of every government and an essential ingredient for effective partnership between communities and their leaders. The fourth generation leadership of Singapore is no exception. Our role is to work together as we partner fellow Singaporeans in defining our chapter in the Singapore story and delivering on our communities to better the lives and delivering on our commitments to better the lives of every Singaporean, especially the underprivileged, the vulnerable, and continue to reduce inequality. As we tackle inequality head-on, we must be cognizant of what social mobility means for all Singaporeans. Many have spoken about the Gini coefficient. It is a popular index of a country's income inequality, but it actually does not tell us much about income distribution, and very little, in fact anything, about social mobility. The Gini is a relative measure and therefore has many limitations for tracking key issues such as income or social class differences, and particularly how people are progressing in socio-economic terms. Take, for example, the United Kingdom, Sri Lanka, Uzbekistan, and Cambodia. They all share the same Gini index of 0.36. Yet, we know these societies are vastly different when you look at the social and economic conditions of people's lives across these countries. A better handle on measuring social mobility is needed to discuss meaningfully the causes of inequality and policies to tackle it. As Professor David Chan from SMU has highlighted, tackling social inequalities involves understanding people's aspirations and achievements. Then he wrote, and I quote, "Social mobility issues are multifaceted and interdependent, thus requiring an integrated policy approach. This is undergirded by ensuring fairness and opportunities for all Singaporeans." Unquote. At present, the government cannot afford to and will not hide behind excuses and statistics. Today, young Singaporeans have come of age in relative affluence, but would soon have to confront the cost of sustaining an aging society and closing the inequality gap. They too should have the opportunity to articulate their desired social compact. As a government, we stand ready to revisit the current balance between meritocracy and compassion to keep our policies in line with the social compact of the generation. Beyond influencing policy, I urge young Singaporeans to be the change you wish to see in the community. If you feel strongly for causes to improve the lives of the less fortunate amongst us, step up and take action. We see many more elderly in the community living alone and at risk of social isolation. They need the support, and our youth can respond. I'm heartened that increasingly many young Singaporeans are answering this call. Recently, a group of youth calling themselves the Gift Community approached me for support on their project they call Baju Bazaar. Baju means outfit, where they plan to collect donated Hari Raya bajus or outfits to be distributed to lower-income Malay Muslim families to celebrate Hari Raya. They asked me for support for a location that they can conduct this distribution process. Of course, I offered them to hold the event at Wisma Geylang Serai. As a nation, let us take pride not only in an economy where people's physical needs and wants are met, but in a strong Singapore society, which we can all call home, because of our individual and collective efforts to foster inclusion with fellow Singaporeans from different backgrounds. Mr. Speaker, saya in Malay. Tuan Speaker, hari ini kita menyambut permulaan bulan Ramadan. Izinkan saya mengucapkan selamat berpuasa kepada semua umat Islam di Singapura. Semoga mereka dapat mengerjakan ibadah puasa dengan sempurna sepanjang bulan Ramadan dan mendapat keredaannya. Tuan Speaker, dalam sekitaran antarabangsa yang terus mencabar, Singapura harus terus mengorak langkah yang kreatif dan inovatif demi menjamin masa depan yang cerah. Dengan ini, saya ada mesej khas untuk generasi muda kita. Mereka digelar generasi milenial. Dalam anda bekerja keras dan mara ke hadapan, ketahuilah bahawa definisi sukses yang kita ketahui hari ini boleh dan akan berubah. Siapa yang akan mencorak definisi baru ini? Anda sendiri. Anda perlu mereka dan membuka laluan sendiri untuk ke arah masa depan yang lebih cerah. Usah terikat kepada pemikiran lama yang terlalu menekankan keputusan akademik ataupun terlalu membataskan pilihan kerjaya atau kerja anda. Nikmatilah perasaan gairah terhadap tempat tinggal anda, tempat kerja anda, dan ruang bermain anda. Dan gagahkan diri anda untuk mencabar keadaan sekarang bersama dengan pemerintah dan rebut peluang untuk mengasah kemahiran anda dan sinarkan bakat semula jadi anda. Namun tetap yakin dan mantap mengenai identiti bangsa dan budaya anda. Malah gunakan ia sebagai tunggak atau pasak dalam semua usaha anda. Perjalanan mencapai sukses memang tidak mudah. Laluannya amat mencabar. Perlukan pengorbanan dan kerja keras. Namun perjalanan anda ini akan menjadi sungguh bermakna. Mengapa? Kerana kini ia milik anda sendiri. Dan dari titik mula hinggalah ke akhirnya. Usah biarkan stesen anda hari ini menentukan siapa anda ingin jadi dan di mana anda akan berada pada hari esok. Sebagai anak muda yang berjaya, ia juga peranan anda untuk rangsangkan kemajuan dan bangunkan masyarakat Melayu Islam Singapura. Dalam kita meraih kejayaan anda dalam beraneka bidang, akademik, sukan, seni, dan bidang profesional, namun masih ada yang terhambat dan tertinggal di belakang. Tetapi kita yakin keadaan mereka hanya sementara. Bakat mereka boleh diasuh. Kebolehan mereka boleh ditingkatkan. Lantas mereka boleh bergerak ke stesen hadapan. Jadi ayo kita hulurkan tangan dan bawa mereka menunggang arus kejayaan, tak kira apa bidang pun. Dengan kombinasi darah muda yang berkobar dan semangat YOLO atau anda hanya hidup sekali, anda boleh reka solusi yang kreatif untuk gerakkan generasi anda dan majukan masyarakat kita. Seperti sebutan popular generasi anda, #GojeDon'tScared. This is the new hashtag I was told. #GojeDon'tScared means just go and do it and don't be afraid. Kejayaan masyarakat kita dalam genggaman anda. Mr. Speaker, allow me to conclude with the fifth strategy in reaching out to the millennials, demonstrating value. And in this context, I would say empowerment. Singaporean millennials will have to address many new challenges, including disruptions brought about by their peers across the globe. To do so, they need to have instincts, mental dexterity, and skills that their global competitors possess. Just as Pioneer Generation had entrusted Generation X to take Singapore into the knowledge-based economy, we should recognize the strengths and aspirations of the next generation of Singaporeans and give them space to forge the social compact of their time. Mr. Speaker, all of us believe in this special red dot. Sometimes we all take for granted what we have. The next chapter of the Singapore story must continue to capture the imagination of the storytellers, Singaporeans. We know it will not be easy. Our earlier generations have undertaken a similar journey. Now, we must go through our own journey. Each of us has a part to play. To the parents, of all the obstacles we clamor to remove in our children's development, our preconceived notions of success is a good start. Success need not be about achieving or achievements of goals, but the fulfillment of self, including the joy of being able to be useful to others. Indeed, we should suspend judgment and be willing to listen to what they have to say. Let us, as good stewards of Singapore, empower the next generation to succeed and take Singapore to greater heights. To the millennials, the path to success will not be easy, however we define it. The road will be tough and require sacrifices and hard work. Yet, the journey is meaningful because you will own it from start to end. Let your station today not define who you want to be tomorrow. We must continue to meet the future's challenges with a YOLO mentality and channel any FOMO tendencies towards collective greater social good. To borrow a term commonly used on social media, this is our #SG Squad Goals moment. It's a new hashtag, #Squad Goals. And this is our #SG Squad Goals moment, where we recognize that going forward, you, the millennials, will be valuable members of our Singapore squad. We must therefore band together, rally behind a common aspiration to build our Singapore of tomorrow. Let us know what you think. Thank you.
Order. There's no fear of missing out on tea break. So don't scared. Go and enjoy a tea break. I suspend the sitting and will take the chair at 16:30 hours. Order. Order.